Hello everyone, friends, please subscribe to my channel, support me with a like and a comment, have a nice day. My name is Richard. I'm 33 years old, and for most of my adult life, I was trapped in a relationship that I thought would define me. I married Jessica when I was just 22, driven by a sense of love, trust, and the hope that we'd build a life together. I thought we were a perfect match, two halves of the same whole, or so I convinced myself. But looking back now, I can see the truth. That marriage, that life, was nothing more than a facade, built on lies and fantasies, and I never truly saw it until I finally let go. I've never regretted leaving her. The pain, the betrayal, and the heartbreak I endured were nothing compared to the freedom I gained the moment I walked away. In this world of uncertainty, I found one thing that was for sure: I would be okay, and so would my son. The story of how Jessica and I came together and how it all fell apart goes back to when I was a teenager, before anything could have foretold the destruction she would bring into my life. I met Jessica when I was 16, a regular suburban kid with a decent family and an ordinary life. My sister, Lily, and I had spent years watching neighbors come and go, so when the house next door was finally sold, I couldn't help but watch through the window, hoping for new faces. I was a little shy back then, quieter than my peers, but there was something exciting about the idea of having new neighbors. That's when I first saw her. Jessica's family moved into the rundown house next door, and the first thing I noticed was her laugh, bright, infectious, and so full of life. She was nothing like the girls I had known before. They were all wrapped up in the usual high school drama, but Jessica seemed different. She had this energy about her that pulled you in, even from across the street. Lily, who was always more outgoing than me, immediately went to offer her help. She came back hours later with a big smile on her face, saying they had become fast friends. Over the next few weeks, Jessica spent more time at our house than her own. I watched her interact with Lily, enjoying their conversations, laughing at their inside jokes. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that she was too good to be true. Then one day, she came over, just like that, without warning. "Mom, I'm here." "Oh, and I brought a friend. Her name is Jessica, she's super sweet," Lily called out as she entered the house. I sat in the living room, watching the scene unfold. My mother's voice floated in from the kitchen. "Hello, dear, nice to finally meet you. Lily can't stop talking about you." I think this is the first time I've seen her with a girl as a friend. Jessica's voice was warm and genuine, a far cry from the girls I had grown up with. "It's so nice to meet you both. Lily has told me so much about you." Honestly, I was nervous to come over at first, but she made it so easy. I watched them for a few more minutes, trying to catch every word, unsure of what to make of this new presence in our lives. She was sweet, charming, and unlike anyone I had ever met. That's when Lily approached me, wearing a grin that could have lit up the entire room. "Hey, Richard. I want you to meet Jessica," she said, clearly excited. I could feel my face heat up, my heart racing in that awkward way only a 16-year-old boy could feel. My stomach churned with uncertainty, unsure if I was supposed to say something profound or just let the moment pass. Hey. You must be Jessica. My sister's been going on about you non-stop. It's, nice to meet you. I hope we get along." I stammered, and I could see Jessica's eyes twinkle with amusement. She didn't seem to mind my awkwardness. "You're pretty handsome," she said with a smile. "It's nice to meet you too." My heart skipped a beat. The words were simple, but they struck me with such force that I couldn't shake them off. Was she serious? Or was this just part of her friendly, outgoing personality? We became inseparable after that, the three of us, Jessica, Lily, and me. I was shy, quiet, and often lost in my own thoughts, but with Jessica, I felt alive. Her energy was intoxicating, and every day felt like a new adventure. She was always there, in our house, hanging out with Lily, or sitting with me in the living room, talking about school, dreams, life. But something inside me shifted, too. I started to feel more than just friendship for her. It wasn't just the way she smiled or the way her eyes sparkled when she laughed. It was the way she made me feel. She was everything I wanted, everything I thought I needed. And I knew she liked me, or at least I thought I knew. But I wasn't sure if she was just being kind or if there was something more. I didn't dare to ask, afraid of ruining what we had. But deep down, I hoped. It wasn't until months later that I found myself standing in the living room, trying to make sense of the feelings that had taken over. Jack, my older brother, had just returned home from college, and everything changed. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and Jessica had come over to spend time with Lily and me when my brother walked in. Jack was everything I wasn't. He was tall, athletic, with dark hair and green eyes that drew people in the moment he walked into a room. He was the guy everyone admired, the one who always seemed to have it all together. Jessica had seen him before, but this was the first time they really spoke. As soon as Jack said hello, Jessica's demeanor shifted. Her voice softened, and her face lit up in a way I had never seen before. "Hello, Lily." "Richard." "Jessica, it's been a while. How are you guys doing?" His presence alone made her glow. Lily and Jessica began talking about school, about the latest gossip, and I couldn't help but watch as Jessica stole glances at Jack, hanging onto his every word. It hurt more than I cared to admit. I told myself she was just being polite, just being friendly, but deep down, I knew the truth. Later, when we were alone, I couldn't hold back anymore. "I've got to tell you something," I said, my voice cracking slightly. "I like you, Jessica. I think I've liked you for a while now. I don't know if you feel the same, but I had to say it." Her smile was gentle, her eyes locking with mine. "I like you too, Richard," she said softly. "Let's try this. Let's date." I didn't know if she meant it, if she was saying it just to make me happy, but I nodded. "Yeah, okay. Let's do it." For a while, everything seemed perfect. Jessica and I were together, and she became a bigger part of my life than I ever imagined. But beneath the surface, something was off. Jessica was always affectionate around Jack. She made excuses to be near him, always sitting next to him during family gatherings, laughing at his jokes in a way that seemed too intimate for someone who wasn't her partner. It gnawed me, but I stayed quiet, telling myself it was nothing. She loved me, after all. Didn't she? But soon, the cracks in our relationship began to widen. Jessica started picking fights over the smallest things. Nothing I did was ever good enough. She'd accuse me of flirting with other women when I simply spoke to a coworker, or tell me I was too distant when I was at work. She wanted to control every part of me, from who I talked to where I went, to what I wore. And I let her. Because I believed, somehow, that her insecurities were just a sign of love. Jessica's manipulations slowly became more apparent. At first, they were subtle, small jabs, comments disguised as jokes, but over time, they became sharper, more controlling. I thought I was strong enough to handle it, that love meant weathering the storms and staying true to her. But the more I tried to please her, the more distant I became from myself. The boy who used to be content with simple pleasures, the quiet moments at home with my family, the calm walks to school, the peace of reading on my own, was gradually replaced by someone I didn't recognize. It wasn't long before I stopped calling my friends. Jessica would accuse me of having too many distractions, of not being present enough in our relationship. And I believed her. I cut off my old connections, stopped pursuing the things I enjoyed, and devoted myself entirely to her, thinking that was what she wanted. But that wasn't enough for Jessica. She still found reasons to complain. "You're not trying hard enough," she'd tell me. "You're not enough for me. You don't show me you care. You're just so distant." It was like a game, one that I couldn't win no matter what I did. When I gave her attention, she would accuse me of being insincere. When I withdrew, she claimed I was abandoning her. It seemed like she was always 2 steps ahead, always able to make me question my every move. Then came the night that everything changed. It was a Friday evening. The weather was stormy, the rain tapping rhythmically against the windows as I sat in our living room. Jessica was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she prepared dinner. I hadn't seen her in a good mood in weeks, and I'd hoped that maybe, just maybe, the evening would be different. Maybe we could have a good night, just the two of us. But then, Jack showed up unexpectedly. I knew something was off the moment he walked through the door. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled as though he'd been out all day. He looked like he'd been drinking, and it wasn't the first time he'd showed up like this. But what made it worse was how Jessica's eyes lit up when she saw him. I stood at the threshold, unable to move as I watched her run into his arms, pressing a kiss to his cheek. Jack didn't seem to mind. In fact, he even smiled and pulled her in closer. I stood frozen, unable to comprehend what I was witnessing. The two of them, my brother and the woman I loved, seemed so at ease with each other, so familiar, like they had known each other their entire lives. "Hey, Jack," Jessica greeted him, her voice dripping with warmth. "It's so good to see you." I felt a coldness wash over me, a sense of helplessness I couldn't shake. I knew, deep down, that I had been pushed to the side in their shared world. Jessica was slipping further and further away from me. The realization stung, but I couldn't seem to escape it. Jack looked over at me, his eyes narrowing. "What's wrong, Rich?" he asked with a half-smile. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The words lodged in my throat like sharp rocks. I had nothing left to say, and even if I did, it wouldn't matter. The evening went on, with the three of us sitting together at the dinner table. It was uncomfortable, awkward. Jack's presence was like a shadow that loomed over the entire meal, and every time I glanced at Jessica, I caught her sneaking glances at him, her face lighting up in a way I had never seen when she looked at me. When Jack left, just after dinner, I finally had enough. I confronted Jessica, my voice shaking with frustration and hurt. "Why?" I asked, my breath ragged. "Why are you always so focused on him? What's going on between you two? I thought we had something. I thought we were in this together. But you keep pushing me aside, and I can't take it anymore." Jessica's expression faltered for just a second, and for a brief moment, I saw guilt flash across her face. But then, she recovered, and her voice became cold, distant. "Thank you very much for watching. Please support me by subscribing, liking and of course commenting.